Depression, when the whole system enters low power mode. Mental Health Trilogy, Episode 2. Opening when whatever becomes a background noise. There's a kind of hard that does not begin with a dramatic event. You wake up, the alarm is going off. You know what the day requires. But the part of you that turns knowing into moving seems to be offline. A shower feels like a task. A text feels like a task. Leaving the house feels like an entire side quest. Even things you used to love seem to be happening behind glass. People may say, try to get out more. Think positive. You have so much to be grateful for. But depression can make the act of trying feel physically expensive. That is not laziness. It is not weakness. It is not a character defect. In this episode, we are talking about depression, how it differs from sadness, what it can do to the brain and body, how clinicians recognize it, what treatment can look like, and why it so often travels with anxiety. This is episode 2 of our mental health trilogy. In episode 1, anxiety was an alarm that would not shut off. Depression can feel more like the whole system has entered low power mode. Part 1, sadness is not depression. Here's a confusion that does the most damage. Sadness and depression are not the same thing. Sadness usually has a story. A loss, a breakup, a disappointment. It hurts, but it moves. Even inside grief, there may still be moments when a friend, a meal, or a piece of music reaches you. Depression does not always have one clear cause, and it is not simply sadness turned up to maximum volume. Some people with depression do not cry very much. The words they use are emptier, numb, flat, disconnected. One clinical term is anhedonia, a reduced ability to feel interest or pleasure. The thing that used to light you up is still there. You press the button. Nothing happens. A depressive episode involves persistent low, empty, or irritable mood, or marked loss of interest and pleasure. It is present most of the day, nearly every day, for at least 2 weeks, along with other symptoms and meaningful disruption to daily life. 2 weeks is not a self-diagnosis countdown clock. What matters is a whole pattern, severity, duration, and how much of your life the symptoms have displaced. Part 2 is not just low serotonin. For years, pop culture gave us a very tidy explanation. Depression means the brain is low on serotonin. It is memorable. It is also far too simple. Current science treats depression as a result of interacting biological, psychological, and social forces. Genes can matter. So can chronic stress, trauma, sleep, physical illness, isolation, substance use, financial insecurity, and an environment a person has to survive in. Research has found changes in some groups across networks involved in emotion regulation, reward, stress response, memory, and neuroplasticity. The prefrontal cortex, amygdala, hippocampus, HPA axis, and factors such as BDNF all appear in the research, but there is no single broken brain region, and there is no routine brain scan that can diagnose depression in an individual. The larger point is simpler. Depression can affect attention, motivation, decision-making, sleep, appetite, movement, and the body's daily rhythms. It is not that someone is refusing to try. Sometimes the brain has made trying cost much more than it used to. But to understand where we are now, it helps to understand how long it took us to get here. Part 3. How depression became a diagnosis. Depression is not a modern invention. Descriptions of prolonged melancholy, sleeplessness, loss of appetite, and loss of vitality appear in very old medical writing. Hippocrates attributed it to black bile, part of a complete medical theory of the time, not superstition. The theory was wrong, but the attempt mattered. Suffering was being described as a condition, not only a moral failure. In the late 19th century, Emile Kraepelin helped create a more systematic distinction between mood illnesses and laid groundwork for the later separation of unipolar depression from bipolar disorder. The first DSM, published in 1952, used categories such as depressive reaction. Then, in 1980, DSM-3 established major depressive disorder as a clearer diagnostic entity. That was the same year DSM-3 formally named generalized anxiety disorder as its own diagnosis. Two conditions that have been tangled together for centuries, finally named separately in the same edition in the same year. The language changed from "you need to pull yourself together" to "this may be an illness we can assess and treat." That shift did not solve stigma, but it gave millions of people a better sentence than blame. Part 4, depression, does not have one face. Depression is very good at hiding in plain sight. It may look like someone who cannot get out of bed. It may also look like someone who goes to work, answers email, makes jokes, and then collapses the moment no one is watching. Common symptoms include depressed or irritable mood, loss of interest, changes in appetite or weight, insomnia or excessive sleep, visible slowing or agitation, fatigue, guilt or worthlessness, difficulty concentrating or deciding, and recurrent thoughts of death or suicide. A clinical diagnosis usually requires several symptoms during the same 2-week period, including either depressed mood or a loss of interest or pleasure. But a checklist is not a personality quiz. The same diagnosis can be built from many different combinations, with 9 listed symptoms and at least 5 required, including one of the 2 core symptoms. There are more than 200 possible symptom profiles. One person cannot eat. Another eats constantly. One person wakes at 4 in the morning. Another sleeps 14 hours and still feels uncharged. Depression is not one standard face. It is a family of experiences that can converge on the same painful loss of functioning. Part 5 assessment. Do not skip the differential. If you think you may be depressed, an online screening score can be useful information. It is not a final verdict. A clinician will ask how long the symptoms have lasted, how much they interfere with life, whether there have been previous episodes, and whether alcohol, substances, medications, or major stressors may be involved. Physical conditions can mimic or worsen depression. Thyroid disorders, anemia, sleep disorders, chronic illness, and medication effects all belong in conversation. Another question matters enormously, and this next part is more important than it might sound. Have there ever been periods of unusually elevated or intensely irritable mood? Times when you needed very little sleep, talked much more, felt unusually powerful, had racing thoughts, spent impulsively, or took risks that were out of character. Those experiences may point toward mania or hypomania and raise the possibility of bipolar disorder. That distinction matters because bipolar depression and unipolar depression are not treated in the same way. For some people with bipolar disorder, antidepressant treatment without an appropriate mood-stabilizing plan may increase the risk of treatment-emergent mania or destabilization. That is why screening for past mania or hypomania is a clinical safeguard, not a minor technicality. A good assessment is not a label machine. It is how we avoid using the wrong map. Part 6, Therapy. Action can come before motivation. The good news is that depression is treatable, and treatment has more than one door. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, helps examine the conclusions depression generates at high speed. One mistake becomes, I ruin everything. One rejection becomes, no one will ever want me. One difficult week becomes, I am never going to get better. CBT is not forced optimism. It is not chanting affirmations until reality gives up. It asks, what is the evidence? What has depression edited out of the frame? Is this a fact or a verdict delivered by a sick mood? Behavioral activation uses a different but related principle. You do not always wait for motivation and then act. Sometimes you take a very small action so that motivation has a chance to reappear afterward. Open the curtains, take a shower, walk for 5 minutes, send one honest text to a safe person. In depression, tiny actions are not trivial. They can be the first bar of charge returning to the system. Interpersonal therapy focuses on grief, conflict, relationship patterns, and major life transitions. The best starting point depends on the person, not on a one-size-fits-all script. Part 7, Medication and Other Treatments. Antidepressants attract two opposite myths. One says taking medication means you failed. The other says the right pill should make you feel normal by tomorrow. Neither is accurate. Common antidepressants include SSRIs and SNRIs. They do not simply top up serotonin. Their effect involves gradual changes in neural regulation and plasticity, and meaningful improvement often takes several weeks. One date connects this episode to our anxiety episode, 1987, when fluoxetine Prozac was approved in the United States. SSRIs would go on to become widely used for both depression and several anxiety disorders. Why the same class can help both is the question we will unpack in episode 3. Medication choice depends on symptoms, medical history, previous response, side effects, other drugs, and personal preference. Doses should not be changed or stopped abruptly without medical guidance. For severe or treatment-resistant illness, other options may include repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, electroconvulsive therapy, and medically supervised esketamine. ECT still carries the shadow of old movies. Modern ECT is performed under general anesthesia with careful monitoring. It is one of the most effective options for severe or treatment-resistant depression, psychotic depression, catatonia, or situations in which a rapid response is urgently needed. It can begin working within the first week, although a typical course involves multiple treatments. Brain stimulation treatments are not proof that depression is only electrical or located in one circuit, but they do make one point difficult to dismiss. Changing brain activity can meaningfully change depressive symptoms. Depression is lived psychologically and socially, and it also involves brain function. Treatment is not a purity test. If something safely helps a person eat, sleep, connect, function, and stay alive, It counts. For more severe depression, combining individual CBT with antidepressant medication is one important first-line option. The right plan still depends on clinical need, side effects, access, and the person's preferences. Part 8, recovery is not a straight line. Can people recover from depression? Yes. Many people improve substantially, and many reach remission. But recovery rarely looks like a clean upward graph. A better month may be followed by a difficult week after poor sleep, illness, work stress, or relationship crisis. That does not erase the progress that came before it. Depression can recur, and the risk generally rises after repeated episodes. That is why treatment may continue after someone begins to feel better. Regular sleep, reduced alcohol and drug use, gradual activity, social connection, follow-up care, and a relapse plan can all matter. Try not to translate "I am struggling again today" into "I will never recover." That may simply be depression narrating the story. Recovery does not mean every day is better. It means you become better able to recognize the drop, ask for help earlier, and refuse to face every recurrence alone. Part 9, we have to talk about suicide. There is one part of depression we cannot soften with a clever metaphor. Depression increases suicide risk. If someone says, "I do not want to be here, everyone would be better without me," or "there's no point," do not dismiss it as drama. Ask directly, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Do you have a plan? Are you safe right now? Asking does not plant the idea. It can open a door that shame has kept closed. If you or someone else is in immediate danger, contact local emergency services or a crisis line. Do not leave the person alone, and reduce access to anything that could be used for self-harm. In the United States, call or text 988. Elsewhere, use your local emergency and crisis resources. You do not need to prove that the situation is serious enough. Safety first. The rest can be sorted out later. Part 10, science, is still editing the story. Depression research is moving in directions that are both exciting and humbling. Why does one treatment change a life while the same treatment barely touches someone else's symptoms? Why is one person's depression dominated by sadness, another's by numbness, another's by anxiety, pain, or cognitive slowing? Inflammation, circadian rhythm, the gut-brain axis, hormones, reward learning, and glutamate are all active areas of research. A 2022 systematic umbrella review by Joanna Moncrief and colleagues, published in Molecular Psychiatry, found no consistent evidence supporting the simple claim that depression is caused by low serotonin activity or concentration. That does not mean antidepressants do not work. It means a treatment can work even while the full explanation of why, how, and for whom remains incomplete. Science does not become trustworthy by pretending to know everything. It becomes trustworthy by updating when the evidence changes. And the evidence keeps changing, which means the story of depression is not finished yet. Outro, you are not broken. Depression is not weakness. It is not laziness. It is not a failure to appreciate your life. It is a real condition that can affect mood, thought, movement, sleep, appetite, relationships, and the ability to function. Real does not mean hopeless. Some people need therapy. Some need medication. Some need both. Some need more time and more support than they expected. Asking for help is not handing your life away. It is sharing a weight that has become too heavy to carry alone. In episode 1, anxiety kept saying, "Danger is coming." Depression may say, "Nothing will ever change." Why do those apparently opposite voices so often speak through the same person? Why can some of the same treatments help both? In our final episode, we put the last piece of the trilogy in place: the connection between anxiety and depression.